Hey there everyone, it's Rachel Merrick from Merrick Makings and welcome to another global monthly video hop. Today I am using the Delightful Wishes stamp set and of course the floral and gingham vellum. So this card is a pop out or origami fold, fun fold. You'll see as we go along. I created this one after I returned from on stage in Brisbane this year, so I had lots of ideas running through my head for other things, but I wanted to return to this bundle and use it for today's card. So you can see I am using both Daffodil Delight and Crushed Curry. So there is Daffodil Delight, there is also Balmy Blue and Old Olive in this stamp set, or it could be Garden Green, but I have chosen Old Olive later on in this video, you will see. So this is a two-step stamp. So you do stamp the shadow, and I use a lighter shade, which of course was the Daffodil Delight, and I'm using the Crushed Curry to go over the top. It is a little bit tricky. You've got to turn it a few times until you get exactly the right orientation, and you stamp over the top, and it creates this beautiful texture or detail to your stamp. So this stamp bundle does come with dies, which I am using to cut them out for later use. So the front panel is this larger piece of panel. I will probably pop some dimensions down, but I have to admit I did eyeball a lot of this, and you can see that I'm going back in and popping that detail stamp over the top. So this is going to be the very front of my card. You would have seen a little bit of a sneak of it at the very beginning of this video. It's very detailed in the fact that all those beautiful images do have a lot of detail to them. I have added a little bit of ink blending just for that depth, and I'm adding it to the two corners. So you can see I've stamped on the lower right hand corner and the upper left hand corner, and I'm just adding a little bit of the Daffodil Delight to the bottom corners, bottom corner and top corner, and the two side corners are probably a lot lighter, if not almost white. Again, this just gives that illusion of a bit more depth. And this front panel is actually going to be layered on top of my Daffodil Delight panel, which just has a 1/2 centimetre border around it. So this is a standard size half an A4 quarter of an A4 card, sorry, that of course I'm in Australia, so that is what we are using. Now you can see I first of all attempt to put my glue down with my Tombow, and then I grab out this little tiny nozzle bottle, which I do have some Tombow glue in. These layered words are very fine, so that yellow wishing, the Daffodil Delight wishing, is super fine, so tiny little dots of glue there. And my tip for you is this: start at one end, line it up and hold it for a second just so it actually does adhere, and then you've almost got to push or condense those words back together. The very fine Daffodil Delight does tend to stretch a bit when you take it out of the die, so you do have to sort of very carefully push it in so that every single letter is shadowed correctly. And then they have these teeny tiny little dots that for the eyes, and they are really hard to do, but I did persist, used a pin for that one to make sure it got into the right spot. And of course you get really inky and glue kind of fingers whilst you're doing all these projects, so that makes it even more difficult when you're making really fine intricate things, putting them together, I'm trying to say. So I am going to use my dimensional dots for this. I have had to cut those edge pieces up into smaller pieces because it is so fine. Adding it to the upper part of the panel, and you can see me now getting my snips and pushing in the little tiny bits of the dimensional dot that were sticking out underneath. They do squish in really well, and that's a nice little tip for you too. So you can see I've started off with the florals. I am, for this particular card, it says wishing you all the best, and on the inside I do put a birthday sentiment later on, and you will see that in the video. So bringing in the old olive here, I am going to stamp on a piece of scrap my sentiment, as well as several first and second generational leaf dies. So these ones here, leaf stamps. These ones here do have a die. However, I don't use the die. I do hand cut them. I do find for some things it's just easier to hand cut rather than standing there and cranking it through, because you only get one die. So that means you've got to crank it through 5 or 6 times. It's just faster to do it with my scissors. And at the moment, I try to stop getting up and down from my craft desk. It does fatigue me a lot quicker with my current medical condition. So I am hoping that by the time you get this next video, I will have a plan. If not, have had a little bit of an operation to fix things, and I can return to feeling a lot more normal than what I am. Again, layering this up, I do want lots of layers. It forms the texture and the interest of the front of this card. And you will see me using the dimensional dots for this. So I had actually cut one full sheet of dimensional dots in half using my trimmer, and that not only allows me to fit it into a little container that I've got on my desk, but it also allows for those little like the little triangular pieces that I'm putting on there, and they come in really handy because they're bigger than the small dots, but they're skinnier than the larger dots, if that makes sense. So just layering it up, like I said, having some of that overhang the actual middle section there, and then I'm just going to glue it all down. If you just follow I don't have a plan. I tend to do whatever looks best at the time, but I want it to cascade, which is what I've done. Now for the middle section, I have got a 15 centimeter by 15 centimeter, so pretty much a 6 by 6 you could use for this piece of vellum. Now vellum is tricky to work with. It was difficult. I do fold it from corner to corner and then in half and quarters, and I do fold it both ways. You've just got to be careful with vellum that it doesn't crack. You need those sharp lines, and you can see I've done it in the triangle first, and then I fold it in half and quarters, and then I pull it together in a moment into a square. So you're basically pulling that corner in, another corner in, and it forms a square. The reason that I'm doing so many folds on this is because the vellum does tend to bounce back. You don't get that so much with paper, but you can see it takes a little bit of fiddling, and it's flipping around a lot. I know that, but you can see it's that center section that is really puckering, and I'm trying to fold it enough so that became softer, so that I could now pull everything together into this sort of like smaller square fold. If you're new to origami, I apologize because I am not the best at it. This is a fairly basic origami fold, and you can see now that I've got it all together, and I've used my bone folder to get the final crease on it. It does form that little square, and you're going to pop that in your card just like I've got it sitting there now, and it will fold open when you open it. So to hold it in place, or to give you a space to write sentiments and to write a message, I am using a matted piece of old olive and basic white, and they're going to fit on the top and bottom. So you glue it in like this. So you put the glue on and then you fold it down. That way you get placement that's correct. Then I'm going to add these matted sections to the inside, and that just holds that glued section down. There's no chance of that actually coming loose at all. And you can see that it opens and closes. You don't even know that there's a surprise element inside until later on. Now to actually add extra things in here, so I've mirrored exactly what I did on the front. I'm going to use sprays of these gorgeous little stamped and die cut flowers, as well as the little hand cut leaves, and I'm just going to add several of those to this inside section. So what you need to remember is that you can layer this up as long as they're not on a crease. As long as your element that you're putting on the inside doesn't overlap a crease. It can actually poke a little bit off the sides of those side pieces. You just practice opening and closing it so it doesn't actually poke outside of your card. But it's actually very cool how this can all go together. Really, I just wanted to look a bit like an explosion of flowers coming out from the middle of at my card. But you can of course add in there sentiments. You can add all sorts of like a scenery. I think I've done videos before where I've got a bit of a scenery in there. I did a Mother's Day card for my mum one year, I think, using exactly this same technique. So pretty much just layering it all up and checking every time that, you know, when you fold it closed, none of that's poking out. Now, I did use the With You in Mind stamp set, which is carrying over to the new catalogue, and I just used the Daffodil Delight to put Happy Birthday on the inside. This is pretty much it, guys. That is my fun fold for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Make sure you like, comment, and share, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.